Hi everyone, welcome to An Hour with LawSikho. And today I have with me a very special guest, Rajiv Indimath. And Rajiv is a very dear old friend and he's visiting me in Goa. So I thought it's a great opportunity for me to catch hold of you and bring him online to answer some of our questions about startups and accelerators. So Rajiv has started at least two different accelerators in IIM and IIT, I believe. And okay, in detail, we'll ask Rajiv in a bit. And he also teaches at IIM Lucknow from time to time. He teaches at other institutes like uh, NAC's Institute for Learning about Business and Stock Exchanges and many other things. In fact, he has even helped IP leaders to plan its future business expansion last year. And we had specially flown down our entire team to Goa and from Calcutta and Delhi. And Rajiv was here to kind of lead the workshop for all of us to help us to discover new uh, expansion areas. And of course, Rajiv is a multi-talented person uh, and also a very good business person in his own rights, having started InCa Partners, which is a investment and growth uh, investor, sort of invests in many different companies. So Rajiv is an investor as well. So before we, instead of I telling more about Rajiv, I think it's time Rajiv gives his own introduction. Rajiv, would you tell us what do you actually do?
Sure. Thank you, Ramanuj. It's monsoon in Goa, raining pretty heavily, so this broadcast helps to stay indoors, do something productive. Hello, everyone. Good evening and good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are, on the broadcast. Well, very briefly, I was on the founding team to set up the accelerator and the incubator at IIM Lucknow, and right from looking at what to incubate, how to incubate, right down to selecting the first cohort of incubatees. That was my role there. Then also was advising IIT Kanpur on their incubation cell on how to look at incubation for the new age going forward. What are the pitfalls and how can we make it a winning proposition? Otherwise, before that, I've been, I started operating my business very early at 17 years, and for whatever circumstances, that was in the manufacturing space. Worked briefly at McKinsey & Company, was with Citibank in the commercial banking space, then flipped and joined a boutique M&A and an investment company which was focused between Brazil, Africa, India to look at mergers and acquisitions and private equity transactions. And then worked with a couple of startups in the technology space. Help build them sales. Started an engineering company which didn't really take off. We did one project, but then went belly up. So
Lots of things
experimented. I would say myself, across industries and functions. Few of the experiments have given good results. Many have failed. So yes, I'm all here, to answer your questions on what not to do, how not to do, what could go wrong beyond the spreadsheet, because a lot of the business folks, a lot of the investment folks, are so obsessed with spreadsheet analysis, but the softer elements of business, the invisibles of business, once you hit the road, I think those are the more critical elements one has to look at. So I'm happy to share my learnings. Yeah, and I'm still learning, so it's learning every day.
Great. So, would you say that what is your role in startups? Like you have done a bunch of things, including you've been a consultant, investment banker, and you've worked in M&A, private equity. So all of that we understand. But with startups, what has been your role so far? Like what capacity have you engaged with startups?
Sure. So, before that, let me just quickly go through and speak about how I understand startups. What is my perspective to a startup, right? I think any experiment which starts with a possibility and taking that to a probability and then a certainty. And that's how I look at the life cycle of an idea. So an entrepreneur is all about looking at possibilities, be it any industry, any function, right? And as he or she starts making progress, it's a probability of making it a success until it becomes a full-fledged business, which is a certainty. That's when you have all your cash flow analysis, your spreadsheet modeling, and blah 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 that works, right? So that's how I approach my understanding of startups is. Now, how do I work with possibilities and probabilities? Is again, look at what goes wrong. And in my understanding, what goes wrong is most entrepreneurs are, they're too much in love with their own ideas. And when you're in love with your own ideas, you come with a conviction, right? There is a bias. There's a confirmation bias that, okay, I've done
my
these.
idea, so there must be a way.
There must be a way to begin with, right? And so and those ideas are generally because I've been doing these for X number of years. I know this business.
How many years have you been doing?
Right? No, I'm saying an entrepreneur always thinks that way.
Okay.
Right? So when someone comes with an idea, he or she thinks, I know this industry so well. Say, for example, if someone wants to start, say, a technology company, right? And he or she would have worked in technology space for 3, 4, 5, 6, 10 years. So it's a confirmation bias that, okay, I know the in and outs of technology, right? Hence my idea, I know what I'm doing. That's the first step to failure, right? So how I engage is look at, my role is largely creating experiences. So experience design, which means if your target customer is walking into your, a bunch of or a boutique of services or products, what does he or she feel? What does he or she experience? Because of which he or she ends up spending, and you end up selling and making revenues.
Okay.
Right? Most startups, most entrepreneurs, falter at creating the right experiences. Because think about it, any fabulous technology product that we use on an everyday basis, say a Facebook or a WhatsApp, it's an experience.
Yes.
WhatsApp is an experience to seamlessly, start communicating without being non-intrusive versus a phone call. Phone calls are intrusive, right? So that's the experience you deliver. Apart from that, you start sharing a lot of data. So when you think of a product, right, what experience are you trying to create, and how will you monetize that experience? So I play a critical role in, designing the experience at an early stage, and how will you have a monetization plan to it, which means a go-to market. Who will be your first customer? How will you look at adoption rates, right? And from adoption rates to conversion rates, and start building revenues.
Right. Okay, so this is what you do with startups.
Correct.
So, I mean, that's kind of a little confusing for me, because on one hand you are come from an investment background, then you are. So, do you invest at all, or do you only work with these?
No. So there are selective investments also that are made. And in a few cases, it'll be sweat. In a few cases, it'll be investing cash and taking up sweat as well. So it's a mix of the two.
Okay.
Yeah, there is no template. That's why, because each founder, each startup, each context, it's very different, right, from each other.
So in a way, you are like competing with accelerators in the form that you are actually hands-on working for a company, help them to build an experience and generate revenues and grow. So till what stage do you work with them?
Until so I'm a strong believer, ideas or concept to cash flow. There's a concept, you validate it, and you start, delivering cash flows. Cash flows could be from sales, actual sales. And I myself, in my, in a few technology companies that I've worked with, my role was purely sales. I was like employee number 1 for sales, right? It was in a funded startup, technology for hospitality. So all I did was build sales. It was a SaaS product, right, which is a subscription-based technology product that hotel owners use, right? So I did that. So cross-functional. So my role is right from until your revenue stabilize is when I am the most effective. I think post which it's better to recruit a professional team and get the formula rolling. So to summarize, until the business or the venture reaches a template stage, is when I'm the most effective. Once it's a template form, I'm not the most effective person. I'm not a manager, right? I'm more of a creator. I am more of a, let's look at this possibility, let's look at this probability, and then make it certain and have people execute it, right?
So creating a viable business model is where you come.
That's right.
Okay, very nice. So I think that's very important. So now tell us about accelerators. What is the role of an accelerator and incubators and accelerators? And you have been involved in setting up accelerators and incubators, and you have seen many of them from very closely, right?
Right.
So, what are these things?
There is, I mean, if you look at accelerators, they have to accelerate a venture either for a certain function like sales or go to market or product development, right? Or recruitments or technology support, right? Or capital. So that's how I understand accelerators, right? Incubators, the only difference in my view, having analyzed, having worked with, having set up and having interacted across the globe, it is largely when you have a capital element to an accelerator, it's a fancy word. Now we're in incubator, right? Now capital could be from multiple sources. One is H&I money. One is the founders of the incubator accelerator himself or herself. Other could be grants.
Could be big companies are starting a
absolutely like corporate venture capital, or like for example IBM has a program
now almost every
from
big company
IoT.
has an incubator.
Correct.
Microsoft,
right.
Samsung,
So it's becoming a Me Too, right? In some sense, right? In all cases put together, as long as any organization, as long as any individual is helping a venture grow, right? And growth measured by
in an early stage, right?
In an early stage. That's why I use the word venture, not a business, right? For a business, it's management talent. For a venture, it's accelerator, incubator talent, right? So any individual or an organization who is helping a venture grow, now growth measured by either sales or increasing adoption rates or helping in product development or product lifecycle management, okay, or bringing about when it's in a rapid growth phase, can there be economics of scale, right? Can there be a template that can be cracked? Okay, I think that is an incubator accelerator. I would also like to touch upon, it is way beyond only providing real estate space, only providing credits from Amazon or credits from other technology companies, or
those things don't hurt, but yeah,
those things don't hurt.
But that's not acceleration.
That's not acceleration, right? That's not really incubation, right? It's just efficient use of real estate. I agree that subsidized or low cost co-working spaces come in very handy for founders and early ventures because the collaboration culture kicks up, right? But is it really hitting the growth metrics? How many customers have you gone and spoken to, right? How many potential customers have you gone and spoken to? How many potential customers have you converted? How many existing customers have you gone and spoken to upsell, cross sell? I think a true accelerator incubator needs to pound the pavement, right? Roll up the sleeves, have a team, roll up the sleeves, and work as an extended team of the founder. That's a true accelerator incubator in my sense. It's just not real estate.
But that's not how things are really, are they?
Well, not. They are not like that. Okay. I mean, so, we don't have much of evidence who are doing such work in India, at least.
So I think the most famous accelerator in the world is Y Combinator.
Right.
So do we have any accelerator like Y Combinator in India? But Y Combinator doesn't really pound the pavement for the company, does it?
But I think Y Combinator plays a critical role in the product development, customer discovery, need gap analysis, which means essentially it's an experience design problem they're solving.
Yeah.
Right. So when you have a great product, when you know what the consumer needs, what remains is your go-to market. So each accelerator or incubator would specialize in certain functions. There are very few who would do, all the functions. So even you have to choose what kind of an accelerator really helps your business or your venture.
Got it. So what are the best accelerators in India?
Okay. That's actually a very tricky question.
Asking me to ask.
And I see. I don't want to pick names.
Why? I mean, people want to know what are the best accelerators.
Okay. Now, best is defined as how, right?
If you started a company, you will go there to.
Correct. So why will you go there? Is it because of the brag value? Okay, like I am incubated at IIM Ahmedabad, or I'm incubated at IIT Bombay Sign, okay, or I'm incubated at Vizag FinTech Center, right? So is it because of brag value? Is it because of access to the community that accelerators and incubators give, right? So parameters for best would change. So let's look at very granularly, okay? If you're a fintech company, if you're a financial technology company, right, the best accelerator for you perhaps could be the Vizag FinTech Center.
Really?
Right? It purely because of the grants that the state government is providing there, so your capital is taken care of, and because
how much grant can a fintech company get at the fintech center?
It could anyways go up to 2-3 crores, 5 crores, depending how promising your venture or your idea is, right? Or it could be the Barclays Rise. Again, with Barclays Rise, there is most important is you get an early adoption for your products. So you can test your products live and then take it to the market. So that's a great go-to-market accelerator, the way I look at it.
Right. So for fintech, there are certain accelerators which will work.
Correct. So are you going for the capital? Are you going for go-to-market access? So a lot of corporate-funded, corporate-sponsored accelerators, incubator programs are great for go-to-market, because you may have an in-house client for you to test it, refine it, scrap it, or take it to the market. Right? If and when you have a good go-to-market strategy, capital will follow. Right? But if you have capital sitting or access to capital sitting and you don't have a go-to-market strategy, you know what happens? Investors say no. Incubators or state government grants are ultimately investors. Right? So I place more emphasis on having paying customers or access to paying customers from a community perspective that most incubators or accelerators want to provide. That should be your parameter to decide the boys from the men, or men from the boys.
Okay. Yeah. So I got it that there is industry specific accelerators which are doing really well. So for fintech, you mentioned a couple of them. I think fintech has a lot of specialized incubators or accelerators, but others don't so much in other spaces.
Correct.
So what about the other spaces?
Other spaces, if you look at being sector agnostic, Venture Catalyst is a great platform.
Venture Catalyst?
Yeah.
This is in India?
This is in India.
Where?
Right. Headquartered, they have a very large presence in Bombay, Bangalore, plus Raipur, and they also work in the hinterlands.
Really?
Right. Which means their angel networks is, from a capital perspective, it's distributed. It's not just the HNIs from the metro cities in India who would invest, but also the large untapped cash-rich people from hinterlands of India who are looking to diversify their portfolios and look at startups. So that is one. Plus, when someone looks at a capital base that is coming, say for example from an Indore or from a Raipur, these guys would have run. These are promoters of companies in the manufacturing space or the heavy industry space, right? So they know what it takes when you're talking about a B2B startup, what it takes to sell to a B2B startup, right? So that kind of intellectual wisdom, that kind of intellectual capital is also accessed, right? So I would, if you're sector agnostic, I would strongly recommend Venture Catalyst. Yeah.
Any other good accelerator?
I'm Ahmedabad for sure, right? But I would be very honest, without rubbing shoulders or without having any ego games here, right? I would, if you're really serious, look at accelerators that are not sponsored by academic institutions.
Right, makes sense. I mean, we haven't heard of too many
successes from
academic incubators, though they are well funded by the government. Government is funding them the most.
Correct.
A lot of money is going in there, but unfortunately, we haven't come across too many success stories from these places.
Right.
And why is that? Do you have any thought? Because you have been involved in two of them.
Yeah. So they end up becoming paper pushers. The decision making is extremely slow, right? And a lot of emphasis is given on what the professor in charge thinks the incubator or accelerator should be doing, rather than what the market needs or rather than what the founder needs. So a good accelerator, incubator has to be founder first, right? And plus, I think these academicians have very little skin in the game.
Absolutely.
Right? Very few academicians have really gone out and done business. Even if it has failed, it's fine. There's a lot of learning, right? So they haven't. It's wet years, right? Although they have gray hair, but they have wet years, right? As far as business goes. So do you really want to bank upon what they really say? I don't think so, to be honest.
So,
Right?
there was one startup that I was working with when I was, and this is back in 2010. And IIT Kharagpur had an incubator, one of the earliest incubators attached in with an academic institution in the country. And they used to give 10 lakh rupees to the startup as a startup capital, which was good. A lot of companies got started because they got 10 lakh rupees, and for a few months they could afford not to do a job and get started in their campus, and they were given an office in the campus and all that. But the problem happened when the first investor came in. They were getting a 2 crore investment, and the term sheet that was signed between the incubator and the company was so pathetic that nobody would put in money. No sane investor will put in money until that is scrapped.
Yeah.
So these guys literally had to convince their professor to take that 10 lakh back.
Yeah.
And say that, let us go. You want to have your 3% that you have gotten in our company. You keep that also is okay.
Yeah.
Okay. But take your 10 lakhs and release us from these onerous obligations that you have made us sign. Because when they started the company, they didn't have a lawyer.
Correct.
And they were given like a pro forma agreement, and they wanted that 10 lakhs. So they signed.
Correct.
Without realizing what trap they are getting into. And while I understand the professors of IIT Kharagpur must have thought that they are protecting the interests of IIT Kharagpur, but what they're essentially doing is that killing the golden goose, which is
the founder, the startup, the venture.
If nobody puts in external capital, when the company is getting 2 crores, which is getting stuck for months because such bad documentation, right?
This is exactly what happens when a lot of the investment committee in academic incubators have not done business. Right? It is a lot of the terms are to please themselves and not aligned with what the venture needs. Hence, I would not recommend going to an academically sponsored incubator or accelerator.
So, if people are interested in the law space, a lot of technology developments are possible, and there are a lot of not enough, but startups in the law space we are seeing these days. What would you say? Like, what would be a good accelerator for them?
For the law space?
Yes.
Okay. So this is it's a very exotic flavor, right?
We don't have too many laws.
Yeah.
Law tech is also in US. Also, it's quite
exactly right. So again, look at who recruits or who hires lawyers the most in terms of frequency as well as in terms of depth of engagement. It's private equity firms. Sure. I mean, large corporates who are very active on inorganic growth strategies. So I would say a private equity fund could look at an incubator for law tech. Makes a lot of sense for them. It may help, commercialize 1 or 2 law ventures that can benefit the fund itself.
There are absolutely no law tech incubators specific.
So we may have to create a market for it, right? Go and probably talk to a very agile, nimble PE fund or an agile corporate who's very active on inorganic growth. Tell them these are the pain points you face. What if you set up a small platform and they could choose a cohort of 5-6 law tech firms and you use it for some time. If it doesn't make sense, we thrash them. If it makes sense, great. It becomes a business. I mean, we'll have to create a need.
That reminds me of the founder of Startup Tunnel, which was an incubator in Delhi. So I had met him to pitch him something else. And he convinced me that we should start a law tech cohort.
Wow.
And, I said, that okay, I'll think about it. But I
Correct.
never got back because I am too busy with my own.
I can think of a name which can really make things moving by the miles. Nishit Desai and Associates, right? Nishit Bhai recently, he set up something called Imaginarium in Alipag, and he had invited me for the inauguration in December of 2017. So it was fantastic. I mean, the who's who of the industry were there. Nishit Bhai spoke of his vision about Imaginarium, which is to incubate and really help founders, entrepreneurs in this country to not be a startup, but but to build a business, right? And because Nishit Bhai has a huge legacy in the law space, he would immediately probably take this idea up. There is space available. There is a huge depth and a very broad bench of talent available that we can lever upon, right? And he's very approachable and he's pro technology, right? He's not one of those boring lawyers who sits on bulk of paper and just let the dust settle. He's very agile, right? He moves with the time. Probably he moves ahead of the time, right? That could be a great space.
Absolutely. I think if somebody wants to get incubated, they should go talk to
Nishit Bhai. Yeah.
Okay, so but to talk about existing accelerators, I want an answer to this question because because it makes sense. Like if we have any viewers today who actually want to kind of go into that, then if they want to start a technology company around law or regulatory tech or legal tech, then what would be the accelerators or incubators you'll recommend? Now, we understand that there is no specific ones, but from the generalist ones, where should they head?
Correct. I would still put my bet on venture catalyst. Yeah, absolutely. This is the name that pops up because of just the kind of work they've been doing so far. So
okay. So what was your experience of setting up
an incubator at IIM Lucknow?
Accelerator,
experience was a lot of learning. It gave me an inside view of how academic institutions in India at the top level think, right? How they look at entrepreneurship, right? So and then just setting up the whole theme for incubation, what sectors to focus on, what should be the batch size, how will they progress, what kind of support the incubator can give, right? All these things. It also made me understand why academic incubators fail, right? So that was largely my experience. So I can get into specifics if that's the question.
Yeah, sure. You can tell us some experiences that you had that we can learn from.
Right.
So what was your best and your worst experience?
Okay, great. I think the best was complete freedom to, when you're on the founding team, you have complete freedom. And when the team, especially the professor in charge, trusts you, you have the complete freedom to go and design the incubator the way you want to. Of course, a lot of inputs from the founding team. So we were a team of 4 at that point in time, right? That was the best experience. So I had that, kind of a stripe on my uniform that I can say that, wow, this is what we created, all in good intentions, right? Worst could be, I think, again, it's the whole bureaucratic way of dealing with things. At times, getting control freak, at times including a lot of academicians that slows down the process, or it doesn't work in the interest of the founders or interest of the incubators. So it just defeats the whole purpose, right, of a free economy, right, or free thought. So,
what are the 3 biggest mistakes in your experience entrepreneurs do when they start a business?
3 biggest mistakes. I think one is what I've felt. They become too protective about their ideas, what they want to do, right? Which means they don't go out and
share with them.
10,000 people, and just not by pushing the concept down their throat, but just having a very open conversation for a reverse feedback, right? And
also to get support. Because once you go and talk to people
will
they
come
like
out.
And your supporters,
Correct.
you create supporters.
Correct. Right. I think that's the first mistake that founders make. Second, too much or overemphasis on raising capital.
Absolutely.
Any founder you talk to today or any point in time,
it seems like the first thing they need to do and the biggest job they have is fundraising. Which is not,
right? So
you talk to them, they're like, do you have a product? No. Do you have
exactly.
You have okay, if you have a product, how many customers do you have?
Correct.
Yet figuring out.
Correct.
Or very
correct.
What are you doing?
Correct.
You're trying to raise
capital, right? So most of the mentoring sessions they attend, or networking sessions they attend, or or industry events they attend, is only for one reason: to raise capital. Who is that F? The fool. There's friends, family, and fool, FFF, but they keep searching for the big fool, right? Who would put in money. Nothing wrong in doing that. Everyone needs capital, but overemphasis on capital and not focusing on actually the building blocks of your venture is mistake number 2, right? So I mean, it's really bad when someone comes to ask help, and when you see through after a few minutes of conversation that this guy is actually talking to me, if I can put in money, or I can help him raise money. It boils down to that, and that is the end of any so-called proactive help. Right. So that's one. Third is not really decoding consumer behavior. They're not understanding consumer behavior. Right. So because of which they end up building a lot of things that consumers don't want to use, or if there is usage, they don't want to pay because there is no clear benefits. Right. So they don't think what is the functional benefit you want to deliver as a startup.
Yeah, so I'm building something. This is so nice, people will buy.
Correct. Or what is the emotional benefit someone will get by consuming or paying for my products or services? This does not happen because they don't want to do the hard work of looking at consumer insights. So which will only happen when you go on the street and talk to as many consumers. This is B2B or B2C, does not matter. Right? So
if I'm starting a new line of business or getting into something new, I start talking to people at least 1 year earlier.
Correct.
And I talk to as many people as I can.
Correct.
And then I may never start it.
Correct.
But I would at least, say, we have been thinking that we want to get into.
Correct.
We get already requests from corporates that, or we have done some of it already, where they say that we want what you're teaching, we want your courses customized for a corporate training.
Correct.
So there has to be, so right now we're doing B2C courses. I have to do B2B courses. I have to build certain analytics and back-end system, which I have to give to the administrative users, and then certain things have to be done.
Correct.
Now, the problem from our side is that I am not going to do all of that. I can build it. I have a technology team. I can say that in 1 month you build this, and they'll build it. But I will not get into the business till I have enough insight. So I started by talking to, 10 different, starting with 10 people who I already know in companies who are in-house or learning and development officers in companies. Started by talking to them, getting their insights as to what they will value as a product. And soon I found out that the kind of courses I'm offering, even the users are finding it to be boring, corporate users.
Correct.
So from a learning and development officer's perspective, this course is not appealing. So I figured out that I need to make it more bite-sized,
Correct.
More engaging. There has to be some sort of
very
engagement.
Modular,
yeah. Because if I give a very detailed course for a HR manager to learn labor laws, I know there's a demand. They want a labor law course for their HR managers, and the companies with 5,000 employees and 100 HR managers. They're ready to buy these, but There's nothing in the market. They find our content most comprehensive, but they cannot buy it because this is at loggerheads with their vision of what kind of course they want to give, right, to their people, and which should be a course which is more bite-sized and more engaging.
Correct.
Now, this insight I would not have found out unless I went out talking to so many people.
Right.
Okay? And that helped me to come up with a strategy as to what I would do. And it gave me a go-to-market strategy for this.
Correct.
And this is something that I'm not going to touch in the next 6 months.
Correct.
Okay, I know there may be other people trying to do it, and I'm very happy to share with them my learning.
Correct.
Because I know it's not so easy as to just taking the idea and doing. Executing it is very difficult.
Correct.
So I don't have to be worried about that. I can openly share about it with everyone also.
Correct.
And I think this is where most entrepreneurs suffer, that they put a lot of value on their own idea. That I have come up with this idea. This is brilliant.
Correct.
And this is going to make $1 million. An idea is of no value.
No value, absolutely. I mean, what is of the value is the potential customer and the insights that you hold as to why you should be building it X, Y, Z and not ABC.
Yeah, even having the insights should only go so far, because the insights will change every quarter.
Exactly. It'll change. So you have to be very current to what your customers need.
Yeah. So great. So I think that's very useful for anybody who wants to build a business. The 3 mistakes you've said. What are the 3 reasons you see that startups scale very fast, or what are the signs that a startup is going to succeed quite quickly from your perspective?
Right. From my experience of building sales for a startup, funded startup, I think number 1 is to be very close to the consumer every day, right? And when I say sales, it means everyone on the founding team should be able to do sales, right? A lot of founding teams I come across saying that मैं sales नहीं करूँगा, okay? I'm not going to do any sales. I'm a tech guy, I'm a product guy, okay, or I'm a finance guy. I'm not going to go on the streets, and do sales, door-to-door selling. Okay, I think that's not an entrepreneur, right? I mean,
that's quite interesting, because in IITers we have although I am the person who's in charge of sales, but I can tell my co-founder, dude, you need to come up and make sales, and he'll do it.
Correct.
And we can, all of us at every point of time, in the top management, can pick up the phone and sell, or can go out for a meeting and do it.
Yeah. So sales has to be the de facto function number 2 for all founders.
1 is build product, the second is
absolutely
sale.
Right? Even if you are a hardcore techie with long hair and you smoke all day, does not matter. Right? You have to sell, right? And sales is a very, very modular function. Everyone can at least prospect. Not everyone can convert, because conversion is an art, right? So there's no formula to conversion, but everyone can prospect. Prospecting is very easy. Keep speaking about it to as many people, even if he or she is not a consumer. Go and just have a small conversation about it, right? It's not expensive. So sales, everyone has to do. I think that's the first thing that makes us, start very successful.
The first thing you said is proximity to the consumer.
First is proximity to the consumer.
Constantly talking to
that's where your insights will keep refining, and how should your product be in version 2.6 or 3.9 or 4.10, right? That's 1. So now 2. Third is, to be successful. As a founding team, or I know when you're in the core team, always stay alert to possibilities, right? Never say no to a possibility, because you never know, that could be your next biggest revenue churner, which, as if it's aligned to your business, right? I'll give you an example. Oyo, which is celebrated so much, revered so much, right? They shifted from just sales and marketing or aggregating kotis in Gurgaon as hotels, or low cost accommodation or stay units, to managed units, right? Now they're getting into aggregating of bungalow houses or bungalow townships, which is Oyo homes. So is it a hospitality venture? We don't know. Is it a technology venture? Perhaps yes. Is it a hospitality management company? Perhaps yes. Is it an asset development company? Perhaps no. Right? So if you look at it, the business model has a lot of distinct color to it, which is not coherent, but it still makes a lot of business.
What you're saying is that
Right?
they have not been very, they have not said, oh, listen, we are this company and this is what we do.
This is what we do.
They have just taken every opportunity that came along the way
Correct.
and really maximized
Correct.
everything that they got their hands.
Look, you should be always open to every possibility that is touching or is even tangential to your problem statement. What is a problem statement? You have to solve for a traveler to stay. Be it a home, be it a bungalow, be it a villa, be it a koti, be it a shared accommodation, be it co-living, whatever it is. Because every situation and context you have to solve for the problem. Right? So always be open to possibilities. That is I think the third element.
Be flexible, perhaps. That's what you say.
Flexible, experiment.
Experiment.
Possibility, experiment. Okay, yeah, idea hai, let's experiment in a controlled environment. Let's go live with a small experiment. Let's see how it goes. If it works great, it becomes a part of your product. If it does not go well, fine. Does not matter. Right? At least you know this possibility we explored.
You have stayed in a lot of different cities in India. What is the base city for doing a startup?
My base city. It's actually a tough question because think of it this way: I'm constantly traveling, and startups that I work with or I engage with, they have clients or they have business across India. Right? But if you have to find me in a particular place, I think it has to be Bombay.
So I'm saying that I'm asking what is the best city for
doing best. Oh, I heard base. Okay. Oh, the best city. Well, it's again, with the angel networks in India proliferating across cities, right? I think there is no such thing as a best city. Whatever works for the founder, I think that's the best, right? In my view. And again, from a sector perspective, if it is fintech, there are one or two cities you can look at, Vizag or Bombay, right? If it's pure ML, DL, high tech, could be Bangalore, right? But interestingly, Ahmedabad is picking up in technology as well, right? Ahmedabad, Jaipur is picking up in technology as well. If it's manufacturing, I would strongly recommend Coimbatore or Pune because these are manufacturing cities, right? Hardcore manufacturing cities, and plus they have a manufacturing base that exports, out of India. So I would recommend it. These kind of stuff. BFSI again, Bombay or Delhi or Gurgaon makes sense, right? If it's say if someone's in the leather business, I don't know. Maybe if Kanpur works as a production center, but your brand offices could be in the luxury markets of Bombay, Delhi, Bangalore, right? Yeah.
Great. So basically, where your clients are and where
I think it's all about the culture. In early stages of your venture, you need people who've walked the path. So if you're starting up, say, a manufacturing startup or IoT for manufacturing or technology for manufacturing, you need to be closer to manufacturing units to test out. So these clients should be able to rate what you're talking, right? And it's best when you're in that city because the culture runs through, right? If you're in the food production space or biotech space or packaging space, then perhaps again a Pune or an Indore makes a lot of sense because these are again agri-food processing hubs, right? Of the several.
Great.
Yeah.
So today, if we face a lot of regulatory problems in India for startups, like you start something and then there are some random changes in the law or regulations. People have faced these problems. Do you think that the government is supportive of startups now? We know that a lot of things government is doing currently. So what are your views of these and how can somebody make the best use of government support? Or when they face regulatory challenges, how can they talk to the government as a small startup?
Well, at a headline level, for sure, governments is getting pro startup,
Hmm.
right? A lot of changes yet need to be done at a ground level, like making startups easier for getting incorporated, right? Opening bank accounts should be made easier, right? Looking at uh,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and then looking at uh, just one second. Okay. Oh, sure. That's right. Fine. So I think the whole government angle. I think the dialogues have opened up, right? But I think government can take a lot more risks, and instead of distributing grants money or public funds via academic incubators,
Hmm.
I think they should come up and start looking at setting up supporting private incubators as well, right? You may have a government official on board for monitoring and all of it.
They have created some funds of funds, so let's see how that goes.
Exactly.
Okay, so we have some questions that has been asked. Sarjana is asking, what do you think one should prefer for expanding a startup? Bank loan, own savings, capital investment, or other sources? Please name some, and on what ground. So basically, how do you, kind of finance your initial growth? What are the options?
To start with, everyone has to invest from their own personal savings, whatever little. It's not about the content, but it just shows that there is skin in the game. Whatever little money needs to be invested in. And
Yeah, if you don't believe in your thing enough, like
why will someone else?
if you're not able to invest your time, money, efforts into it, not only efforts, you cannot say, oh, I am working on this, I'm not doing a job, so I'm giving up my salary. But actual money, also when you are putting in it, and you also, I think it's a very important part because you start getting things right when you're putting in your own money or taking a loan for that matter.
Yeah,
you'll be a lot more careful. You'll not be casual about it.
Correct.
You can be casual about taking 3 months off work and trying out something.
Correct.
You can't be casual about taking a 5 lakh loan and putting that
Absolutely.
Especially if you are someone like me.
Absolutely. Very true. So I think your own personal resources is the best way to get started. Friends, family, yourself, right? Don't start when you're constantly looking out for money. Like even if you've not invested 1 lakh rupees in your own business, then I don't think it's worth it, right? So that's one. And then
but let's say you have done. Let's say you invested a few lakhs.
Correct.
And now you need money.
Yeah.
So then what should
so it depends.
Bank loan or
it's a very contextual situational question, to be honest. So if you have paying customers, right, then you may look at short-term working capital, which is extendable now for startups, right? Like Neo Growth or Indefi. These kind of fintech startups are focusing on lending to startups based on their algorithms, wherein you don't need CIBIL records, or you don't need 3, 4, 5 years of balance sheet. It's largely they take a stock of their cash flow pattern, especially your revenue pattern, right? And what is the kind of clients you have on board. There are a lot of financing instruments which are available, especially for startups which are selling online or are selling via POS, right? Or wherever the sale happens via debit cards or credit cards, right? So you could lever or take advantage of those kind of products, right? Bank loan probably will be too premature. One, the quantum of money will be very less. Second,
the mudra loans these days should be very good. Right?
Yeah, but
5-10 lakhs.
Yeah, 5-10 lakhs. But then I don't know. At least my correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe I don't have the right exposure. Then maybe the time taken, the documentation to be put up, that the detailed feasibility report, all of that is just waste of time. I would rather go and talk to a potential customer with all that time invested, right? Or go to my rich uncle or rich dad or my mom, or just say, hey, just lend me 5-6 lakhs for a couple of months or something. I have this potential customer. I just need to service it, and you take it back, right? And then go to an angel investor. Say, I have done everything possible to get my business to these many paying clients. I've put in my personal monies, my savings. I persuaded or coaxed my friends to put in some money, right? I had my rich uncle or whoever fund me for these many months, and I got this customer. If you put in, we can take 10 such customers, and you also be a part of the growth story, right? I mean, there is no formula to this. It's so fuzzy. And if you have specific questions about a startup and you have to let me know what the situation is, then we can look at it.
Great. So I think we have reached the end of our time limit, which is 9 p.m. and we don't have any other questions. But before we go, Rajiv, would you like to share anything from before we go, like one parting message?
One parting message. Yes. So if you are a founder, or if you're wanting to start up, just go and start, right? I really no, don't give excuses that I'm going to leave my job once this happens. This never happens, right? Don't have a backup plan. Just plunge into it fully. If it does not work out, you end up wiser and you become more employable, right? That's my parting message. So if you don't be a entrepreneur, just do it.
Great. I think that was a fantastic discussion. Thank you for coming to Goa, and
Yeah.
at your valuable time when you're visiting Goa for holiday, you have come on An Hour with LawSikho. Thank you so much for that. And the rest of you, please come back tomorrow at 8 to 9 p.m. We have another fantastic guest lined up, and see you tomorrow again.
Thank you, Ramanoj. Thank you, guys. Bye.
Bye. Good night.
Good night.